Welcome to the show. If you're watching the recording, check the description for the actual start time because I'm going to hang out here for a little bit, let some folks join us live, and then we will start the program. Welcome, Rick. Welcome, Blossom. Welcome, Bav. My. Quite the show lined up for today. Welcome, Christine. Welcome, Margarita. I wonder if we should do a different light there. Let's try that. I think that's better. Yeah. Welcome, Linda. So cool to see you keep coming back to the show. It's early for you too. Good morning. It is a beautiful day in Portugal. I was just laying out in my back patio area, just relaxing, listening to some music before the show. It's nice. We're at that sweet spot before it starts getting crazy hot. It's just that super comfortable warmth. And then, I don't know, 20 days, it'll be like an oven. Oh, how's that audio sound for you guys? Okay, looks like it should be good. You guys ready? Come on back, Linda. We'll hang out. Okay. I think I'm ready too. Rarely am I ever actually ready. That's the story of my life, though. I just jump in and somehow it works out, or it doesn't work out and you learn something. And so it works out in that way. Anyway, welcome to the program. This is Holding Space for Love to Be Seen. And I keep saying this, but it feels like such a long time since we did the last episode just last week. But it's interesting because I come and I show up and it's like, oh, wow, I forgot how to do this. But then I remember you just show up. I've got my little structure and we hold space. And then something comes out of my mouth because that's the pattern, is that when I show up and then there's people listening, I tend to say things. And it seems like people enjoy what I say because they keep coming back. We get to hold a space together for about an hour. We're going to do a super quick introduction to introduce the program. That's this. And after the introduction, we're going to do 2 minutes of stillness which is the sacred part of the program. It allows us to relax into some presence and just be here. It's my favorite part of the show because it just allows me to fall into that space that's cool, calm, and collected. Realize that I don't need to know what I'm doing and I can just be here, and that's enough. I love living life from that space. After that 2 minutes of stillness, I'm going to run my mouth about the topic today, which is the poison of self-judgment, a guide for adding more love. Aw, that's sweet. I'll talk about that for a little bit, and then we will do some Q&R, questions and reflections from those watching the program live. They can use their fingers and type into the chat box if they have anything they'd like me to speak to. And then we will wrap up with a super short and sweet guided meditation. And on this episode, and this is becoming consistent, but I'm not making promises that it will continue. I've been writing much longer versions of the pre-broadcast reflections, which is me taking time to write about this topic and to share that before I do the program. And this time I wrote something that was pretty long, and I ended up just calling it a guide, taking people through a little bit of a journey to identify the self-judgment and to recognize that it's poison, that it's not helping at all, and then to find some alternatives. And if you didn't get that, then you can get in touch with me or my team and maybe we'll find it for you. And I'm working on a worksheet to go with that just because it's fun. That's why we do things here. Okay. Shall we do the 2 minutes of stillness? Let's do that. Yummy. Yummy. That's my commentary on the 2 minutes. Feels like I might want to do that more often. My goodness. Welcome to the program, my friend. And we're going to just take our time and we'll get through whatever we get through. This guide that I wrote before the program was quite long, and I don't think I'll get into all of it today, but we do have an opportunity to explore something that I feel is monumentally important to see. The conclusion of which is that as human beings, we're somewhat conditioned to use self-judgment as a tool for trying to get ourselves to change. And it doesn't work very well. And even if it does seem to work, we can almost be guaranteed that you're not enjoying the process of change, the process of growth, or the process of transformation. You know what? Let's just acknowledge that for a moment. First, we can acknowledge that it's an option. It's an option that if you would like to grow and transform and have new experiences, to operate a different way, you can attempt to judge yourself into submission. You can hate on yourself. You can criticize yourself. You can withhold love from yourself and try and get yourself to change. That is a valid option. And of course, the natural question is, how's that going? And I know how that's going because I've played that game. And I talk to people all the time who are playing that game. And it's a fairly consistent outcome, which is one, it either doesn't work, or two, it works, but you're miserable. And you realize that the change that you got isn't really what you wanted. What you wanted to was ultimately to enjoy yourself. What you wanted was to connect with more love, connect with more gratitude, connect with a deeper appreciation for what you are, for what life is, for what everyone is. And so we're going to dive into this topic of self-judgment and see if we can bring some beautiful clarity that allows us to let go of that tendency to judge ourselves a little bit. This much. I think that's a good start. The inspiration for this topic comes from a Zoom session I had last Saturday. And this beautiful woman I was talking to, she was expressing her concern about how she shows up for those she cares for those she cares for and loves. And she was going on and on about questioning if she should do it this way, or if she should do it that way, or is she too much of this, not enough of that? What about these times when I'm snippy or unkind, and yada, yada, yada. And there was, naturally some pain in there, right? Some frustration. And I asked her a simple but powerful question, in my view. And that question was, in your frustration about these experiences, how much of that pain is in response to self-judgment? Now let's just look at this, and you can participate in this exercise. In all the things that you might want to change about yourself, in all the things that you think you might not like about the ways that you show up, is it the thing? Is it the way you show up that causes the pain? Or is it the subsequent self-judgment that says you're not enough? that says you're unworthy, that says you're unlovable? Where's the pain really coming from? So easy it is to look at how we operate, look at what flows through us, conscious or unconscious, and use that as evidence of us not being lovable, of us not being whole and complete. And you know what? There's an undertone of a statement here, and maybe it's in your own language. But that statement says, if only you were different, then I could love you. You see the judgment there. If only you didn't do these things and you did those things, then I could love you. If only you were this way and not that way, then I could love you. And furthermore, when you're not the way I want you to be, I hate you. And I hate you in an attempt to get you to not be that way. How's that going? And in this process, in your everyday life, in your human journey, with this sort of commentary, is that helping you? Is that contributing to your lived experience as being one with more love, compassion, and freedom? Is that helping you connect more deeply with other people? Or does that result in you pushing other people away? Saying, don't look at me. I'm unlovable. I also feel that the more we investigate this, we will come to realize there's much more self-judgment happening than we were originally aware of. And it's a good opportunity to mention that this isn't another opportunity to judge yourself as we look at these things. This is an opportunity to compassionately step back and ask ourselves, okay, what's really going on? And is that helping? Here's the point. Here's the fundamental point that I want to make about this, that at least for me is profound, 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 profound. In all those behaviors, habits, patterns, ways of expressing yourself that are less than loving, that are not constructive, that are violent in nature, do you see that all of those things are only possible because you judge yourself? They are extensions of self-judgment. I'm going to just go real slow with this one. It speaks to something I mention a lot with regards to you can only be unkind to others because you're first being unkind to yourself. What is that unkindness to yourself other than self-judgment? Is that helping? And so the strategy that is adorably insane is I'm going to fix my behavior that's caused by self-judgment with more self-judgment. I'm going to put the fire out with more fire. We could probably spend weeks talking about this. And maybe we'll just take a moment for you to reflect on the truth of this, that those things that you don't like about yourself, can you see that those things are there because there was first self-judgment? It's fascinating, isn't it? And if I can see that, if I can really, really see that, it points me to see that the solution to these things very clearly is not more self-judgment. And maybe if you hear that, something inside of you will click, right? Because for some people, they can hear that and be like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And another person hears that and they say, holy shit. And they can see a life lived thus far where it makes perfect sense why it hasn't been working. And the deep recognition of this can really open you up to a new way of operating. What's the contrast? What's the alternative? It's very unpopular as it relates to the masses. First, we can see that self-judgment comes from fear. I'm afraid I'm not enough. And the antithesis of fear would be love. I don't like calling it the opposite. Let's just call it another way. And my goodness, I love exploring this stuff. In recognizing how ineffective self-judgment is, I'd like us to open up to the possibility of how effective love might be, and maybe what that might look like. In the few moments we have left. Without the fear that's worried about yourself being rejected, that's worried about yourself not matching an image in the future. What there is a beautiful and natural curiosity. There's a willingness to look at what's happening and to look at what is happening with an energy of openness, which is also absent of judgment. That is to see it with eyes of love. And you see a lot more of what's going on when there is love present than when there is judgment present. You'll notice that when there is judgment present, you're essentially saying, I don't want to see this. I don't want to understand this. What I want is for this to not be what it is, which is a straight up rejection of it. Zero interest in understanding it. And how can something change if you don't understand it? This natural curiosity seeks to understand the deeper issue. Seeks to understand what's really happening. And in this openness, it's willing to meet whatever this behavior is. And you know what's interesting too? I get this visualization where somebody's acting all crazy and then they have this moment of seeing how much they're hurting. And then they meet that hurt. They meet themselves in that hurt. No judgment for the hurt. But they recognize that the behavior of acting crazy is coming because you're hurting. And the more you see that hurt without judgment, you'll also recognize that there's no one to blame for the hurt. Because the blame would be another form of judgment. And that might be a leap for some people. And I apologize because we have such a short time to dive into this. You see, as beautifully human as it is and allowed to blame other people, do you see how, in a way, that blame says, I don't want to look at the hurt within what I am. I want somebody else to not be that somebody else. It's another way of avoiding meeting ourselves. Blame. In the same way that you can blame your behavior, your patterns, your habits for your suffering, you can say that those things are making you hurt. Right? You can blame them. And then you think, for me to not hurt, you need to be different. Do you see it's the same mechanism, just like blaming another person? But what's really going on is that you're not hurting because of your behavior or pattern. You're hurting because of the interpretation of what you think it means about you. Now, again, I'm not saying that it's without value to judge yourself, because even though it might be a difficult path, you can use that as a tool for transformation. However, I'd also suggest it's not that effective. There's a deeper opportunity that I feel is infinitely more effective, and that is one of self-compassion and understanding, in meeting your own heart rather than running away from it. And why this is so effective can maybe simply be said because we're not adding fuel to the fire of self judgment, right? The behavior is fueled by self judgment. And then you judge the behavior, which adds fuel to the fire. This is often an approach that is used with getting children to do what you want them to do. Judgment. I'll love you if. Do you see how that can be effective? It's a form of manipulation. But does that contribute to the wellness of the relationship? Not at all. You might get what you want, but you create a bigger divide between you and that one that you're in relationship with, whether it's with you or another. Something to consider. If you want more loving behavior and patterns, you must add more love to the equation. And this is scary for people, which is quite interesting, but there's a profound truth to it of how scared we are of love. I don't know if I'll dive too deeply into that right now, but something to investigate. You see, in our behaviors that are problematic, in that they're an extension of self judgment, which is an extension of fear, we're not seeing the full picture. This is the perspective of fear that's just very, very narrow, thinks it knows, and it's super confused about what's real, afraid of its imaginary monsters. And the reason why compassion is so much more effective is because it seeks to see the bigger picture. Right? There's a stillness that looks to understand it, which means you have to let it be what it is. That's fascinating. Right? What's the other approach? I don't want to understand it. I want it to change. And so I try to manipulate it into changing. I try to force it into changing, which is not a fun journey. It's not a loving journey. There's a natural unfolding here where through compassion, you invite yourself to see life more clearly, right? Compassion is a deeper understanding. You see a bigger picture. The more you see the reality of what's happening, and this is super important, and it's what I'm always talking about, to see what's real. The more you see what's really happening, what's actually happening beyond the mind's noise, beyond the judgment, there's a natural extension of love that emerges. Because as more is seen, it's seen that judgment isn't necessary. It's seen that fear isn't necessary. And so, what arises in the absence of fear and judgment? Love. Then love is added to the equation. And as love is added to the equation, what's the output? More love. This really speaks to like an effortless way of doing this. Allowing the truth of life and love to transform what you are, rather than your silly idea of yourself. You see, and this is already set up, right? I'm pointing to the fabric of reality. I'm pointing to a very ancient wisdom about life, where if you see life clearly, the natural result is more love. And if there isn't love, if there's fear and self-judgment, it's simply telling you you're not seeing life clearly. That's a great thing to take note on. That if there's self-judgment, you're not seeing clearly, which is an invitation for stillness, an invitation to come back to yourself, an invitation to be open, which is the point of spiritual practice. To take a moment and chill, man. What's really happening? I think it's wise to mention the difference between judgment and discernment. And understand that I'm just making all of this up so that I can point to a point. I wrote some definitions of these words from my perspective. And for me, they bring a lot of clarity, and I'll share them with you. Judgment: forming an opinion that determines the inherent value and worth of something or someone based on limited information or knowledge. In a subset, when I judge myself or others, I make assumptions about their worth and value based on my own biases and beliefs. This can lead to feelings of superiority and inferiority, as well as a lack of empathy and understanding. Discernment, the ability to consciously observe or distinguish differences and recognize the nuances and subtleties of something or someone without making a value judgment. When we practice discernment, I can see things as they are without adding my own biases or opinions. This allows me to cultivate a deeper understanding of myself and others, and to approach life with greater clarity and compassion. Discernment arises through a genuine curiosity, which is only possible in the absence of judgment. Pretty big difference between the two. And what I enjoy seeing is that whenever biases or opinions arise, seeing that those are products of conditioning. They're not even mine. They're a product of conditioning. Right? Like comically, when I lived in the US, born and raised, I developed a lot of opinions and biases about the world from an American perspective. And then when I traveled the world, completely shattered what I thought I knew. It was really quite fascinating. It's like I didn't know anything. My mind was just being pumped with propaganda. And I believed it to be real. And I saw reality through that lens, which just resulted in judgment. And so it's fascinating to take a moment and look at that. And the same thing's happening when you view yourself or when you view your patterns or your behaviors. You're looking through a conditioned lens that determines what is lovable and what isn't lovable. Judgment. And that's been conditioned into you. It's not even you. What a great opportunity to get in touch with a more sincere aspect of yourself beyond all the conditioning. Beautiful opportunity there. Oh man. There's a lot more of this outline. But I'm going to stop there, and I'm just going to see first if there is any questions that arise in the group chat. So if you have any questions or if you want me to speak to something, now would be the time to write that. And if not, then I'll say a few more things and we will transition into the guided meditation. Here's a part from the guide that I like. It says, love is about what's real, what's authentic, what's sincere, and what's deeply true. There's no pretending about it. I either want the real thing or I'm looking for new tools to manipulate myself, life, and others so that I can get to that perfect and unreal future image of myself. This is to explore these things from an energy of self-judgment. And there's 3 steps here that I expand on, but I'll just tell you the steps. Step 1, this is related to the poison of self-judgment and adding more love. Step 1, see the adorable misunderstanding. Are you available to see the adorable misunderstanding? Step 2, forgive the misunderstanding. And again, I'm pointing to something that's deeply sincere within your own heart, but to genuinely forgive the innocent misunderstanding that leads to self-judgment. Step 3, embrace the journey of transformation. And what I'm speaking to in that embrace is that life is already set up for you to transform. It's part of the process. It's already encoded in you to transform. Everything in life transforms. And everything in life has a bend to transform towards love. The question is, can you get out of the way and let it transform? And part of what gets out of the way is the self-judgment. The self-judgment is in the way. All right, I'm not seeing any questions pop up. I'm scanning for question marks. But you guys are saying lots of beautiful things. Thanks for contributing. Oh, why are we so afraid of love? Yeah, okay, let's dive into this before we do the guided meditation. Why are we so afraid of love? Oh, my goodness. Because love, in the same way that love is truth, truth is the destroyer of illusion. Love is the destroyer of the fear you hold on to. One way to illustrate this is life says to you, I love you as you are. And then you say, no, not yet. I'm not ready. There's still so many things I have to change about myself before I allow myself to fall in the love of life. Right? It's not safe to embrace love right now because if I do, I might not change. Right? Because there's an undercurrent in the awareness that believes if you captured that future image of yourself, you might be lovable. Right? We all play this game in some way. So just notice that in your own awareness, there's the character in your mind that looks different, that acts different, that has more money, that has more of this and that. And something in the awareness says, if only I had that, then I could arrive, then I could be whole, then I could be complete. And in the presence of love, it invites you to let go of all of that and say, just be loved now. And the more you want those things, the more you'll be afraid of the love. It's like, wait, what? Just accept myself as I am now? I don't like myself. And love invites you to just like yourself as you are. And again, we're coming back to that same point of all of these things that you don't like about yourself are only there because you don't like yourself. But we don't see that. And the invitation of love is to just drop it all, is to come back and be playful, come back and enjoy yourself, come back and truly be alive. And you see, to come back and to truly be alive in the most loving way will resolve all of those issues. Like in one playful sense, here's an example. Like, as it relates to being healthy, if you fall in love with yourself, not who you think you are, but just the real aliveness of what you are, a deep honoring for what you are, a deep honoring for life, you naturally take care of yourself. And then in your natural taking care of yourself, there will be a transformation. But yet the fear is that if I let go of the outcome, if I stop judging myself, then I might not get there. And so I can't let go because I really need that outcome. And this is also why we're afraid of the truth. And I'm just going to say this quickly to illustrate. Linda, I saw your beautiful donation there. Thank you. This speaks to why it's difficult to be honest and sincere. Why is it difficult? Because you lose control. When you're honest, you lose control of what's going to happen. If you're sincere, you lose control of how other people perceive you. Right? So if you want people to see you a certain way, if you want a particular outcome, the most dangerous thing you could do is be yourself. Right? Which is to say, be honest, be sincere. And so if you want all of those illusions, the truth of you will threaten all of those things. And so in the same way that we don't really want love, we don't really want the truth, we want our illusions. And the spiritual journey is simply an invitation to see illusion for illusion, to see that it's not really what you want. It's not what you want as it relates to you being lovable, you being whole, and you being complete. Those illusions don't contribute to your wholeness. Those illusions are there for the sake of play, right? Like in me, building businesses, yes, there's outcomes, yes, there's goals, but they're all playful. Like, it doesn't matter if they work out or not as it relates to my own worth and value, right? This is simply a game that we're playing because we enjoy the game. In the same way of me doing this work with sharing insight and wisdom, there's not an outcome that I can reach that will make me more than I am. I'm already enough. And so as I engage it without fear because there's nothing to lose. I'm simply doing what I enjoy doing, and that's the prize. And most people think the prize is in the future. And if the prize is in the future, they have to control and manipulate reality to make sure they get it. And the way they control and manipulate reality is to not be themselves. So in order to get what they imagine is in the future, the illusion, they sacrifice their own heart, their own sincerity. And they further and further feel more disconnected from themselves, which is quite painful. And then on that journey of disconnecting yourself and the pain, you find ways to numb it. You find ways to distract yourself from it so that you can keep chasing illusions. And then we finally come to a point where we realize, holy shit, that didn't work at all. And then we have to get back in touch with ourselves. That can be scary. But it's only scary because of a misunderstanding. It's not really scary. The reality of it is unimaginably beautiful. The scary part is the imaginary loss of what you're chasing in the future. Okay. Let's switch gears. Except one more question here. Can it also be a confusion that love is pain? The more pain someone gives you, the more you think you love them. You confuse love with having emotions. I'm super unclear about what you're saying. Yeah, we're going to have to tackle that one another time. Yeah, let's switch gears. Thanks for trying, though. Come back next week. Or send me a message and clarify it, and I can integrate it into next week's show somehow. Let's switch gears into this short and sweet guided meditation. Welcome to this guided meditation. We're going to invite a sweet and playful transformation from self-judgment to self-love. Let's allow ourselves to ground into the present moment. We're going to take 3 deep breaths. And with each breath, we're just going to invite ourselves to come home and release all the noise about anything that is not here and now. Let's breathe. in the stillness of this moment and in the most self-forgiving sort of way, let's just acknowledge the reality of self-judgment. As we move through life, as we do what we do, the mind has all its commentary about how we should be, how we shouldn't be. And it can assume so much that if only we were this way or that way, then we would be worthy of love. And in this confusion, the mind shouts out in some sort of flavor that says, I don't like you. I wish you were different. What I invite us to recognize and maybe see a little bit more deeply is that the emotional pain we experience isn't because of what is or isn't happening, isn't because of what we're doing or what we're not doing, but it's happening because of how we perceive ourselves. It's happening because of the stories we tell about ourselves. If you interpret something as meaning you're not enough, you will feel the pain of not being enough. If you interpret one of your outbursts as meaning that you are unwhole and incomplete, then you will feel unwhole and incomplete. In this, it's not the something out there that's causing the pain. It's not how we move in the world, but it's in how we see. And the pain we experience is from seeing self-judgment. And we can acknowledge with a sincere heart that the self-judgment isn't helping. Can we relax into that realization just to be honest with ourselves about it? There's a great act of self-love in just being honest with yourself. Even if you're scared that you won't be able to stop, we can at least be honest about the real issue. Let's take 3 deep breaths and acknowledge that sincerity, to acknowledge that the self-judgment isn't helping. Let's breathe. The next thing I'd like to invite us to recognize in examining the behaviors, the habits, the patterns that flow through us and seem to be not helpful, can we recognize that those things are only there because there was first self-judgment? It's also like saying that you cannot be unkind to another person without first being unkind to yourself. And so, whatever lack of love might be flowing out of you, it's only possible because there's a lack of love within, which is also to say there's self judgment. And we can playfully acknowledge the beautiful insanity of trying to fix behavior that was caused by self judgment with more self judgment. And we wonder why these things might get worse or not get better. And so we find ourselves opening up to a new way, a new way that can be a little bit more gentle, productive, and playful, a new way that honors what you are rather than rejecting what you are. In a very simple way, if you would like your behaviors, habits, and patterns to be more loving in nature, then we must add more love to the equation. Are you open for that? Are you open to transform this relationship with yourself? Maybe it's time for that. I'm going to invite you to see what that might look like in your own life. I'm not here to tell you what you should or shouldn't be doing or how you should be doing it, but I invite you to explore that. How might you approach this with more love? Something that might help are 3 playful steps. Number 1, be open to see the innocent misunderstanding whenever there is self judgment. Step number 2, forgive the innocent misunderstanding. It's an innocent misunderstanding. I thought it meant something about me, that it doesn't really mean. Step number 3, embrace the journey of transformation. It's a journey, my friend. And it's a journey that's already encoded into the fabric of life and being human. It's in our nature to grow, to expand, to discover new things. It's what we're here to do, and it already wants to happen. But so often we simply get in the way. And one of the biggest ways we get in the way is with self-judgment. So let's add some more love to the equation. Thank you for meditating with me today. All right, lovelies. We did it. We did episode 47. Can you believe we've done 47 of these hour-long programs? There's so much insight. I've given away all the secrets. It's 47 hours. Almost 47 meditations. My goodness. All right. Anything else I want to mention before I get out of here? I'm scheduled to be back next week at the same time. Tell your friends if you feel like they would enjoy this kind of space. And if you have topic ideas, let me know. And I'll see you on the flippity flop. Thanks for joining. And thanks for your donations. I saw some come in. Appreciate that. I will mention briefly, I have a retreat coming up in Italy, July 8th through the 14th. And it's specifically for people with value to share in the world. It's my playful intention to show you how easy it can be to add lots of value and get paid for it. To develop a service-based offering that allows you to create a practical, profitable, and heart-based business. It's amazing how easy it can be in today's world. And then I also want to set your heart on fire for stepping into the fullness of what you are. It might be time for that. So if you want to come play with me in Italy, let me know. You can also find details. Ooh, I'm not sure if it's up there yet on my website, inlightconnect.com. But if you want more details, send me a message and I'll fill you in. I'm going to go take a walk in the beautiful sunshine. Bye, you guys.